Hi there, and welcome to Wine Searcher. Today is Tannat Day, International Tannat Day. So I thought we'd take a look at a classic wine made from Tannat. That's a Madiran. That's Chateau Montus, made by Brumont. So Madiran is a region. Well, Madiran's a village, but the wine region that surrounds it lies just to the north of Pau in southwest France. Pau just on the foothills of the Pyrenees. So the variety originated in this area, and down into Spain. These days, although in France it's principally made in Madiran, the variety is also spread to South America, where it's very influential in Uruguay, and also can be found fairly commonly in Argentina. The variety classically is thought of as being really quite rustic, and actually Chateau Montus is perhaps one of the estates that's done the most to change that. Montus was bought in 1980 by Brumont. He had inherited another chateau the year before, and he set about trying to find ways to make really fine wine out of this quite rustic and very tannic and forceful and beautiful deep colour, grape variety that is Tannat. So for Chateau Montus, and there are premium versions of this. There's a Prestige, and then there's a single vineyard Litaille, but this is the standard Chateau bottling from 2015. The approach that Brumont has taken is that this is a wine made from low yielding grapes from old vines, so it's concentrated to begin with. There's quite a long maceration, so the wine will ferment and macerate for 3 to 6 weeks, and that allows the tannins to polymerize and form longer molecules and become softer in the mouth. It then goes into barrel for up to 14 months, and a high percentage of that is new oak, so you've got oak flavours and the presence of oxygen to soften it. Also in the 90s, Madiran was an area, and Brumont was one of the people who pioneered this idea, where they used artificial micro-oxygenation in there. So you're pumping a tiny stream of oxygen through the wine, again to soften the tannins. These days it's a technique used very commonly in Bordeaux, but started down in this tiny area of Madiran. So let's have a look at the wine, shall we? As I suggested, Madiran. Oh, actually, one other thing just to mention about this is that the other way of slightly moderating the tannins in Tannat is the fact that this wine has, I think, something in the region of 30% of Cabernet Sauvignon to soften it. Normally, you'd think about softening Cabernet Sauvignon with Merlot, but on this occasion, Tannat is such a potentially astringent variety that actually the Cabernet Sauvignon smooths it in there as a blending component. So the balance, the 70% of this wine is Tannat. So looking at it, as I was starting to there, you've got a really deep colour. It holds its colour well to the rim. There's maybe a tiny touch of purple in that meniscus there, and you can only just make out the rim, the stem of the glass through the wine. So it's virtually opaque. Smelling it, surprisingly, doesn't really give off an awful lot. There's a very restrained red plum note, maybe a tiny touch of raspberry, but actually over that there's a sort of a milky note that I think might point to the use of the microbrûlage, the micro-oxidation in the wine. Wonderful legs throwing on the glass there. Again, I'm not sure with it how clearly you can see those, but there's certainly a density in there that's being expressed by that. Tasting the wine. From the beginning, the wine's got lovely grip. There's a sort of a red fruit. It's a ripe plum and onto a blacker sort of mulberry sort of note. Slight spiciness in there as well. Oak, I mean, this has had up to 14 months in 80% new oak barriques, but there's not an obvious oak to it. It's very well integrated with the fruit. The tannins are so fine. There's almost a sort of a dustiness to them. They are drying, but you know, the richness of the fruit, that lovely red fruit, that juicy red fruit, is enough to overcome them. And although it's not a highly acidic wine, there's a lovely freshness that's just enough to pick up the red fruits in there and keep them alive. You know, despite quite a tannic finish there, it doesn't finish drying, tannic and astringent, although tannins are very definitely present. Chateau Montus, given the way the wine is made, I was delighted to see pricing is somewhere between about $30–40 US. So that's actually quite a bargain. Just you know, it's not a huge wine, but the endurance of the flavours and the concentration of the fruit and the fruit's ability to deal with the really quite concentrated tannins is impressive. This is a wine that will very happily go with rich foods, sort of roasted red meats, duck, that sort of thing. And yeah, really delightful. So happy Tannat Day, everybody. Bye now.